Here we
Got the
are.
recording.
We're recorded.
Yeah.
Welcome to this week's Torah class, Parshat Chaya. So I titled today's class, The Morning, the Dusk, and the Evening of Judaism. Or the morning, the afternoon, and the evening of Judaism. Okay, let's just use very everyday language. If I were to, if I had to, if I took this month that we're in now, the month of Cheshvan, and I kind of had to classify, like, where does this month fit in? I would say it's neither morning nor evening. It's kind of like the dull afternoon. And let me explain what I mean. Okay, so this week we read about the very first marriage that's recorded in the Torah. And it's the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka. What's interesting about this marriage is that it's also the first time that the Torah tells of the love between a man and a woman. So let's see the verse, the pasuk inside. I put it up on the screen. And the verse reads, and Isaac, Yitzchak, brought her to the tent of Sarah, his mother, and he took Rivka, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted for the loss of his mother. So this is a very powerful verse. Like we said, it's the first marriage recorded, so we have no reference really of love or marriage before this union, before the union of Yitzchak and Rivka. When we talk about Adam and Chava, the very first man and woman, the language that the Torah uses is very different. The Torah uses the verse says, man should leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, so they become one flesh, right? So yes, it implies definitely a very strong relationship. They become one, but cleaving implies, I would say, primarily a physical relationship. And love is an intense emotional bond. So when is love first mentioned? Not by Adam and Chava, not even by Avram and Sarah, but by Yitzchak and Rivka. And that shouldn't think that the commitment or the relationship between Avram and Sarah was not loving. It was most definitely a loving relationship. But what's interesting is that the Torah first uses this wording, ahava, when it talks about this marriage, Yitzchak and Rivka. So the question is, what is so unique about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka that is expressed in this verse, in this parsha? What's also interesting, and I want to mention this also, is that in upcoming parshas, we'll talk about the marriage or the relationship between Yaakov and Rachel. Right? Yaakov, the third of the patriarchs. And the Torah tells us that Yaakov loved Rachel, right? And the Torah even uses the word love again. But in this time, it's a little different. The Torah says Yaakov loved Rachel. And Yaakov said to Rachel's father, Lavan, I will work for you for 7 years for your youngest daughter, Rachel. So interesting, just to contrast this for a minute. By Yitzchak and Rivka, first comes marriage, then comes love. He marries Rivka, and then he loves her. That's what we read in the parsha. But by Yaakov, first comes love, he works for her, and then comes marriage. So what is the difference? And this is what I want to analyze a little bit today in our short time that we have. Another interesting thing I want to bring out is that The Torah does not record any friction between Yitzchak and Rivka. We have no history or no stories recorded in the Torah about their disagreements. And we know from common sense that they had differences, right? A very big difference was that they had twins. Rivka loved the younger one, Yaakov, while Yitzchak loved the older one, Esau. They could have easily gotten into a big disagreement about it, but we don't hear any mention of it in the Torah. And again, this is different than our other patriarchs and matriarchs, because with Avram and Sarah, some disagreements are recorded in the Torah. They disagreed over how to go about the education of Ishmael and what to do with Hagar and so on and so forth. We also hear about disagreements or friction between Yaakov and Rachel. She complains about her childlessness. Yaakov says, "Why are you upset at me, right? I'm not God." So this is very interesting to note also that Yitzchak and Rivka, between the two of them, there's no expression of friction ever recorded in the Torah. So this is what I want to talk about today and understand this deeply according to Chassidus. What is it? What's unique about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka that's different in a way to the relationships that we know until now? And what can we learn from it? How is this relevant? So in order to understand this properly, I want to connect this with the teaching of the Talmud, a very famous teaching of the Talmud. I'll put this up on the screen so you can see it. The Talmud says, and I'm actually not going to read it in full detail, but the Talmud says that our three patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, instituted three different prayers. Okay? Abraham instituted the morning prayer, Shacharis, and the Talmud brings verses to prove. Yitzchak established the afternoon prayer called the Mincha, and Yaakov established the evening prayer called Ma'ariv. What is so significant about this? By understanding the differences between our patriarchs, their nature, their qualities, what they were inclined to do, why specifically each one of them established this specific prayer, I think we'll have an understanding of what was so special about the marriage, the relationship of Yitzchak and Rivka. So what is the difference between these three prayers that we daven? The morning, the afternoon, and the evening. So Chassidus explains, very, very interesting. The morning is new. The morning is fresh. The morning is pure, right? A new day emerges and we have this sense that, we hope we can start anew, a fresh start. Mornings are like that. Mornings give us a new possibility, a new sense of hope. And this was Avram. Avram embodied the morning of Judaism. Avram brought down the dawn of a new era. He opens up the world, all of humanity, to a new reality, a new light, a new message. That no, we're not a world that's subjected to the whims of idol worship and competing gods, but this is Hashem's world. It's a divine place. There's purpose in everything. There's meaning to life. Who was Avram? Avram was someone who woke up early in the morning, and we see this language a lot in the Torah. He woke up early in the morning when he was instructed to bring his son up onto Mount Moriah. Avram was a morning guy. Avram was the one who instituted the Shacharis, taught us how to tap into that morning energy when you embrace a new day. That's Avram. That's morning. Now let's talk about evening for a moment, nighttime. Nighttime is a time of rest. Nighttime is a time of relaxation after a long day, right? It's a time when we can spend on things that we enjoy. It's quiet time, it's time of reflection, it's time of dreaming, it's time of romance, right? Some people love their mornings. Some people love their nighttime, right? It's interesting. I turn into a pumpkin at nighttime. But some people just start thinking. They just wake up at night. Something magical happens at night. And Meryl says like her. And Yaakov, our third patriarch, was a man of night. He was a master of the Ma'ariv energy, of the evening energy. And you see this again and again in his life. A lot of things happened to him at night. He dreamed a dream at night, right? Of that ladder ascending to Hashem and angels ascending and descending. Yaakov told his uncle, his employer, Lavan, that for 20 years, I didn't sleep. I worked for you, for your daughters, right? Yaakov also fought, right? He had that confrontation at night, and that's when he earned his second name, Yisrael. So Yaakov's life was very connected to nighttime. It's almost like his life was categorized by the drama, by the darkness, by the romance of night. And morning, Chassidus explains that mornings and nighttime are very conducive for prayer. They're very conducive for communicating with Hashem. In the mornings, we're hopeful, we're inspired, we're ready to begin anew, we're fresh. In the evenings, we're relaxed, we're grateful. And that's why mornings and night are very spiritual in nature. Think about sunrise, sunset, right? They're both very moving spiritual experiences. That's the power of the morning prayers and the Ma'ariv, the evening prayers. But then you have the afternoons, right? Help, right? The afternoons come smack in the middle of the day, whether it's smack in the middle of a work day, right? Routines and schedules, and we're tired and we're exhausted, we want to get out of the office. Late afternoon arrives and life feels very exhausting, very dreary, right? And if you're not in the career force and you're home, then it can still be stressful, right? It's time when our kids are coming home from school and dinner needs to be prepared and you feel like you need a nap or you have a headache. We definitely are missing that freshness of morning, and you also are missing that relaxation of nighttime. What is the energy that gets us through those afternoons? This is the energy of Yitzchak. This is what Yitzchak embodied. This was Yitzchak's time. Yitzchak's life was not as colorful as his father's, Avram, and not as colorful as his son, Yaakov. Avram fought wars. Avram traveled extensively. Avram was a celebrity. Avram was the founder of a new movement, of a new nation. He was a revolutionary. That was Avram. Yaakov was also, his life was so dramatic. I mean, he had to escape his brother and he had to fell in love, and then he had to work for his love, and then he experienced deceit, and he had to lose his son Joseph, right, to a wild animal, only to discover later, many years later, that his son becomes the prime minister of the superpower of Egypt. I mean, such a dramatic life. But Yitzchak lived in one location. Yitzchak never even left Eretz Yisrael. Yitzchak lived a simple life. The only thing that Torah really tells us about Yitzchak's personal life is that he was almost sacrificed at Mount Moriah. And then after, he sat and studied and dug wells. That's all we know about Yitzchak. But if Yitzchak's life lacks the excitement or the drama of Avram and Yaakov, Yitzchak represents the essence of Yiddishkeit, the foundation of Yiddishkeit. It's the consistent and unwavering commitment to Hashem. And this is who Yitzchak was. Yitzchak was someone who took the light that his father Avram cast onto the world, and Yitzchak created vessels to contain the light. Yitzchak dug wells, the wells of Judaism. Yitzchak went deeply into himself. Yitzchak internalized those messages, right? Yitzchak knew that you could have great messages and a lot of really important ideas, but if you don't internalize it, then it will all fade away. And therefore, Yitzchak is the founder of Mincha, of the afternoon prayer. Yitzchak tapped into that spiritual energy of the exhausting afternoons, right? Why? Because Yitzchak shows us that a relationship with Hashem does not only consist of the exuberant, inspiring, fresh morning inspiration, and our relationship with Hashem is not just about the drama and the romance of nighttime, but our relationship with Hashem is expressed even more profoundly in the daily commitment, the daily sacrifices we make. And Yitzchak is the father who gives us this internal resilience, the strength to bring God into the probably the most tedious and exhausting areas of our life. Think about when we say Daven Mincha, the afternoon prayer. It's when we're in the office in the middle of the afternoon and we have to stop everything we're doing and stand up and connect to Hashem. So it's busy, it's hard to concentrate, yet we take the time out. And this is where the power of Yitzchak lies. Yitzchak is that voice of dedication, unwavering dedication to Hashem. No, even when it's exhausting, even when it's a struggle. And what's fascinating is that our three patriarchs and the three prayers that they introduced to the world connect so intrinsically to who they are who they represent. Chassidus explains that each of our three patriarchs embody a different spiritual attribute with which they served Hashem. Put it up on the screen so you can see. So without getting into detail, because this is very, very deep and elaborate, but Abraham represents chesed. Chesed is love. Chesed is kindness. Yitzchak is gevura. Yitzchak is reverence, restraint. And Yaakov is tiferet. Yaakov is a combination of chesed and gevura. Yaakov is harmony. Yaakov is truth. How does this relate? How does this all very interconnected? So again, by analyzing who they were, we'll understand how they embodied, the trait that they embodied was their whole life. It's how they served Hashem. And that's why they specifically, each one of them instituted their own personal way of connecting to Hashem, whether it's through Shacharis, whether it's through Mincha, whether it's through Ma'ariv, right? Avram was Chesed. So think about kindness, right? Kindness and goodness and charity. So it was appropriate for Avram to institute the morning prayer because mornings are optimistic. Mornings are full of promise. Mornings are full of potential. We feel so much gratitude in the morning, and Hashem returned our neshama back to us. So the divine energy in the morning is a positive one. It's chesed. It embodies Avram. Yitzchak is Gevura. Yitzchak is awe of Hashem. Yitzchak is discipline. Yitzchak is a man of dedication, of commitment, of resolve, right? When is Mincha said? Mincha said in the afternoon. It takes a lot of Gevura, a lot of commitment, a lot of resolve, discipline to set aside time to say the Mincha prayer. Something so foundational about it. As a matter of fact, Mincha means a gift. The afternoon prayer is the most precious one to Hashem. Because when one stops and takes a few minutes out of your crazy afternoon and puts everything else aside to let Hashem know how much we appreciate the opportunity to be here on this world and how much we are truly thankful for everything we have. This is Hashem's greatest gift. And this is why Yitzchak and Mincha are so connected. And then comes Yaakov. Yaakov was the attribute of Tiferes, which is harmony, which is truth. And Yaakov was able to prosper under such diverse conditions. He lived in the land of Israel, and then he lived in Haran, and then he sojourned in Egypt. I mean, Yitzchak was really taught us how to bring the harmony and truth of Torah in all different kinds of circumstances. And Yitzchak instituted Ma'ariv, because when the day wanes and we wrap up all our activities of the day, and we sit back and we have an opportunity to reflect on what happened that day, this is Yaakov. This is what Yaakov embodied. So now I want to connect it back to Yitzchak's marriage to tie it all together. So we started off the class asking the question, what was so unique about Yitzchak's and Rivka's marriage? That the Torah highlights their relationship. There's something special about their relationship. It's the first time the Torah uses the word love. What is it about Yitzchak's afternoon marriage? What does that mean? Well, how is that relevant? So Chassidus explains that marriage has these three components too. There's the morning, there's the afternoon, and there's the night of marriage. When we first meet our soulmate, right, there's like, whoa, we're overtaken by this newness, by the freshness of this experience. We are excited, we're inspired, we're full of hope, right? This is Avram of the marriage. This is the shacharis of a relationship. This is mornings. This is like engagement, right? Honeymoon. Then a marriage also has special moments of moonlight, of romance, of passion, of drama. And that happens sometimes, in the dark of night. And it's also very meaningful. It's also very special. And this is the Ma'ariv, the Yaakov of marriage. But then there's the Mincha of marriage. Then there's the simple, day-to-day, unromantic, non-dramatic commitment to each other. The commitment to each other in difficult times as well as in good times, in times of agreement, in times of disagreement. It's a loyalty. This loyalty is a loyalty that Yitzchak taught us. The loyalty in marriage, and it's a loyalty in our relationship with Hashem. And this creates a unique type of love. There's a love that's born out of newness and drama. And this is love that precedes a marriage, right? You fall in love with your partner. You're overwhelmed by this new light in your life. This is like, whoa, right? You're so infatuated. Yitzchak, though, first married Rivka, and then he loved her. First came the marriage, and then came the love. Because Yitzchak's love was not the love that's born out of drama and newness, right? It's a powerful love, but sometimes it's a love that's hard to maintain. The Yitzchak type of love was the longer we are married, the deeper the love. The love becomes like a deep well that we dig in the depths of the earth. And the first Jewish marriage described in the Torah is the one of Yitzchak and Rebekah. And I think this teaches us a very powerful message. And perhaps one of the most important principles in marriage and in our relationship with Hashem. That love that's as a result of passion and a result of romance and drama can easily fade away. But love that comes from enduring qualities, love that's resilient, love that comes from a resolve, from a commitment to each other, that's a love that's here to stay. And that's a love that we learn from Yitzchak. So our culture today, we know how to pray Shacharis, we know how to pray Ma'ariv. I think we're good at both of them, right? We're very inspired in the month of Tishrei, which is chock full of holidays. And it's very inspiring the month of Kislev when we light the menorah for 8 days and we bring light into our home. But what happens in the monotonous of the afternoon? What happens in the month of Cheshvan? What happens when it's just we're stuck in the day-to-day? That's when we need to discover the secret of Mincha. That's when we need to discover the secret of Mincha. So this was the message I took from the Parsha this week. I hope you connect to it, you relate to it. I think it's something we need to think about when it's specifically when we're not majorly inspired, it's not around a holiday or it's not around anything exciting. This is when we connect to Yitzchak. This is when we connect to our inner resolve and our commitment to Hashem, commitment to our spouse. And this is a love that's very long lasting. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about the struggles getting on and everything, but we'll fix it next week.
Have a good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Bye-bye.
Good Shabbos.